Oh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Unscripted presented by the Field of 68. I am your host, Carter Elliott, and my co-host, Greg Waddell, is in a very nice, maybe Christmas party sweater and actually a nice pair of spectacles that I did not see coming at all. So, Greg, how are we doing today?
Listen, I am just chock full of surprises, just like this Oakland team was tonight. Yes, I'm in a Christmas sweater. I am feeling festive. Came home from Christmas number one of roughly 4 Christmas parties I'm supposed to celebrate this week with family, although the over-under is 3.5 because weather may get in the way. I have a hefty Jack and Diet Coke that I am looking forward to consuming over the next hour and a half that we are recording at 11:18 p.m. Eastern time on a Wednesday, 3 days before Christmas. And I did just put spectacles on, Carter, because I feel like we have to get down to business tonight. There's a lot to talk about, both good, both bad, mostly bad. And there's no one on earth I'd rather do it with than you, my friend. The voice of Spartan Nation, Spartan Rivals own, Carter Elliott.
Yeah, well, let me give you a quick check-in on how the voice is feeling right now. I'm a little down. I'm a little somber, to be honest with you. That win did not feel good. For those of you listening to this, as Greg mentioned, we are recording this after Michigan State's 13-point victory over the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, taking their best punch from a very, very bad Oakland team. Let's not get things crossed. We will talk a little bit more about that. But all in all, we escaped with a 13-point win. I am not happy. I'm also in a different setting right now because when I was recording in the spot that I usually record in, I found myself getting way too upset. So I needed to come back to earth a little bit. So I'm back to my roots. I got my jersey in the background, so I'm getting back to my podcasting roots here. But let's go ahead and dive into this game, Greg. Michigan State came into this game, I think, according to BetRivers, favored by 20.5 points.
Correct.
So coming off, an 11-day rest, a very much needed rest for this basketball team. We got guys hurt. As we pointed out in previous episodes, the schedule's been an absolute gauntlet. They really haven't had that many days off. So, coming into this game, me personally, I expected them to come out in this game strong, fresh-legged, an opportunity to get confidence kind of going into the new year because, I'm not going to mince words real quick right now. Oakland is a very, very bad basketball team. Okay. We're talking Ken Pom 320 level bad basketball team. Not like okay, not scrappy. They are an awful basketball team. That's not up for argument either. The stats back it. What I actually saw tonight backs it. That is a really bad basketball team. And that's evident by their 2-10 now record.
2-11.
2-11. My apologies. Thank you, Gregory. We come out in this game. We get out to a 13-6 lead. Marty's got some dunks. We're getting some easy shots. Oakland kind of plays this matchup, put it in quotation mark, zone. It looks like half the team is playing man, half the team is playing zone, and half the team is running jumping, and half the team is doing all types of different things. Needless to say, it's a very awful zone, very evident by their defensive ranking, which according to evanmia.com is 356 in the country team defensive rankings. If you were wondering.
I'm sorry, the writer in you has brought out so many statistics Carter Elliott would normally never go to. It's so impressive. I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's what you're gonna get. And we proceed to be in an absolute dogfight with Oakland in the first half, finding ourselves down for most of the first half. And it wasn't honestly, this is what the most disappointing part to me was. We were in a dogfight with Oakland, and Oakland was playing bad. Like they were not playing well. We just could not get in a rhythm offensively. I'm gonna get more into it once I let you say your piece, kind of going kind of position by position on how guys did in this game. But the first half of this basketball game was something that needs to be thrown away, along with Tom Izzo's festive Christmas Grinch sweater. And it's something that was disappointing to see from my point of view. Now, I know someone else might look at it and say, oh, 11 days rest. They haven't played in 11 days. They're going to be sloppy. Christmas around the corner, want to get home to their families. No Izzo there with Christmas break. I'm just not in that camp, Greg. I don't know if you are.
I mean, there are ways you could say this was a schedule loss, right? Just like it was a schedule loss when they played too many games all over the country too quickly. When you only play one game at home, but with 11 days off, maybe that's a schedule loss, Cart. I don't know. I've kind of lost the definition of a schedule loss at this point, or a schedule performance. No, I don't think you can say that. I think I do my daily picks, gambling videos every day. 3 best picks of the day, right? And this was my number one play today. I've been on a super hot streak lately. That looks like it's going to come to an end tonight. I had Michigan State minus 20.5. And one of the biggest reasons why was I like this spot for them, a team that hasn't played in a week and a half, that seemingly has a lot to play for, that seemingly might want to blow an undermatched opponent out of the gym at home. And like you said, this Oakland team is horrible. I think this Oakland team played horrible tonight. I think this Oakland team did exactly what we expect them to. 31% from the floor, 28% from 3. And no offense to anyone involved, but he's a character that is center to this matchup tonight and deserves shout out in this context. Oakland is a basketball team who has Rocket Watts as its best player. Like, when we contextualize, this is a historically bad
Rocket
version
Watts
of Oakland.
No. And I'm going to cut you off there. I'm going to let you go. But I must cut you off because this is going to be the writer in me. Trey Townsend is the best player on Oakland.
Yeah,
that man's a killer. Didn't have the best game tonight, had an okay game, but that man's a killer.
Okay, he's been good this season. That's fine. Rocket's the most talented player. Rocket is the most prestigious recruit. Rocket is the most prolific profile guy on this team. He's playing horrible this season. So, yes, Townsend has been better, but on paper, Rocket Watts is the most talented player on this team, would be my take. And he's been horrendous, and the team's been horrendous, because when you center a team around Rocket Watts, what do you expect, right? We kind of saw this a couple years ago. And now we talked about Rocket needs to find his level. I don't know that there is a level for Rocket. So that's sad. That doesn't need to be the whole story tonight, because Rocket was 2 for 8 from the floor for 4 points in 27 minutes. Ultimately, it didn't matter. Other guys on Oakland, had more productive nights, but Townsend was 6 for 19 from the floor. Like, none of these guys played good. They played like Oakland, who's one of the worst teams in the country. This is Campy's worst team.
Blake Lampman was 3 for 12 from 3.
This is Campy's worst team in his career at Oakland. Like, he's never had a team in the KenPom 300s. He has
38 years, by the way. 38
so, I'm struggling to understand why Michigan State didn't pull away in this game, because they're a lot better than Oakland. They're a lot better than they played tonight. And if you told me Oakland was going to play how they played tonight 20 times, I would expect Michigan State to cover 19 of them. It didn't happen tonight. And as I try to rack my brain and figure it out, it starts with one of the same things we've said all year. They're getting nothing from the bench. They're continuing to get nothing from the bench. You can go down the line, list name after name after name. Jackson Kohler, Trey Holloman, Pierre Brooks, who apparently was benched. They're getting nothing from the bench. That's not going to change until they get Malik Hall back. Then maybe they'll get something from Akins if they move him to the bench, or Hogard if they move him to the bench. But this team has 6 playable players when Malik Hall is healthy. And until he's back, they only have 5 productive playable players. And on top of that, I think, I pushed back really hard pregame on Izzo doesn't like to blow out Campy. I basically said that's not true. It might be true. I don't know. What were those lineups in the first half? Apparently, Pierre Brooks is in the doghouse. And I was texting this to DK in the Spartan Hoops group chat I'm in, but I don't think, if you're Tom Izzo, I don't think you can play the doghouse game. If you made the decision you did in the offseason to not bring additional bodies in, you have not afforded yourself the opportunity to play the doghouse game. When I say you have 5 playable players right now, that means 5 good players. You actually have 7.5 playable players, and that includes Pierre Brooks, Trey Holloman, and Jackson Kohler as the 2.5 playable players. You can't not play one of those guys because you're mad at them. You just can't do it. And I'm sure he's mad about his defense. I'm sure that's it. Pierre Brooks doesn't defend at all. But I don't like sending a message to him at all. You're going to need Pierre Brooks sooner rather than later. They needed him tonight when they're down 5 points with 5 minutes left in the first half to Oakland. So I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I bet on it more than anything. I don't think you should take really anything away from this game as I don't think we learned anything new that's going to hurt Michigan State, really. I just think Izzo let this team's flaws show up front and center tonight. And that allowed Oakland to hang in a game they never should have hung around in.
Yeah, and they should have blown. And just so you know, Pierre Brooks was actually held out of the first half because he was late to a couple things this week, I guess is what Tom Izzo said in the press conference, which is, obviously the first thing that came to my mind was that he's a turnstile on defense. That's why he was trying to send a message. But at the same time, to go off your point, Greg, you're sending a message by throwing guys and I hate doing this because you know how I feel about, criticizing players that play at the Division I level. Like, I have a respect for all college basketball players, honestly, at every level, because it's not easy to play the game. I understand that. But at the same time, when Jason Wittens is on the floor, it is 4-on-5. He's not a threat offensively. He's not a threat defensively. He doesn't have positional size. He doesn't have positional quickness. He doesn't have positional anything. Like, what are we doing here? Jason Wittens couldn't get on the floor at Western Michigan, and all of a sudden he's playing 15 minutes in the first half.
He could get on the floor at Western Michigan, but that was a historically bad Western Michigan program, and he was not a starting 5 caliber player at that team, right? Like, he's not. Right. He should never sniff the floor on a team with NCAA tournament hopes in the Big Ten. Period.
Right, and I don't want to put that on him because
it's not his fault. What's he going to do? It's not his fault.
What's he going to do? Say I don't want to check into the game? Like, no, thanks, coach. Put Pierre.
And
in.
I'm sure also I'm sorry to interrupt, but while we do this, I really don't want to come in and hate on Jason Whitens, however you say it, but like I'm sure he's busting his ass in practice.
Oh,
I'm sure he looks at the top 9 guys in this team, add Carson Cooper into that playing group, and is like, I'm not far off from them. And honestly,
and the team loves him too. By the way, I follow him on IG. Like they do, good team guy. Just saying.
Honestly, Cart, there's not a big difference. Like, there is a difference, but like, let's just be clear. Jason Wittens is not Steven Izzo. He's not Nick Sanders, right? He didn't get a spot on this team because of who his father is. Jason Wittens is a basketball player. He's not a Big Ten level basketball player. Okay, but when you make the decisions you made as the head coach of this program, you end up putting guys who aren't Big Ten level basketball players in the game because of the decisions you made. So again, we're going back to the offseason shit I want to move on from, but I don't know how, as the head coach of this team, how can you play the doghouse game with one of your few guys when you chose not to have enough guys? Like, it's not going to help. And they're lucky they played Oakland tonight, because if they played any team, like if they played a non-conference team that's not Oakland, a team in the 200s on Ken Pom, aren't they actually down like 10 in this game in the second half? Like,
yes,
they're very fortunate. And maybe Tom Izzo knew that. Maybe that's why he was getting cute with it. But I really disagree. And as a bettor of it, I was really frustrated with the way he coached this game, because you saw what happened in the second half, right? He put his best guys in the game, and they were up 22 points immediately. Like, snap a finger, and there you go.
So why in the first half am I subjected to Jason Wittens, Carson Cooper, and Matty Sissoko on the floor at the same goddamn time?
I don't know.
That's not fair to them. It literally is not fair. Part of coaching is putting your players in the best position to succeed. There was no succeeding with that lineup. There was none. It is what it's frustrating. But then, okay, let's get into the second half. No, but before we move on to the second half, excuse me, there's something that needs to be addressed. Okay, this game was the perfect opportunity to get something going from the center position. Oakland does not have a true center. They don't have a true power forward. The tallest guy on their roster, Chris Conway, I believe his name was, a 6'9". He played probably 10, 12 minutes in this game.
24 minutes.
Did he play 24 minutes? Oh, my
24 minutes, wow, but he fouled out. He picked up 5 fouls. He only had 4.6 rebounds in those 24 minutes.
Okay, my apologies. He played a lot more than I had thought. But with that said, That was the tallest guy on the floor. And this is honestly a first for me. And I was baffled watching it because, as I mentioned, coming into this, Oakland's very bad defensively. And it's obvious why they are bad defensively. Their zone is absolutely terrible. If you get in transition, you get an open shot. If you get in the gaps, you're getting open shots. You're getting drop offs. You're getting teardrops. You're getting layups. It is an absolutely terrible matchup zone. But this was a first for me in watching basketball, at least the one I can remember. In the post, they were going one-on-one in the post, but they were sagging off in the post. So I catch it on the block, and the defender was backing up like 2 feet, basically into the paint, asking you to go up and try to make a layup over a smaller player, and we're getting pump fakes. And we're getting fadeaway jumpers out of the post. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, how are we letting them sag off of us? I've never seen sagging in the post. That's a different type of defensive approach. I don't know if they were teaching that or what that is, but I've never seen anything like that in my life. And on top of that, we had a height advantage, and you got Marty doing fadeaway jumpers in the middle, and you got Jackson Kohler doing hook shots, fading away from the basket, wondering why he keeps shooting it short. It's just frustrating.
Can I tell you what I think it was? Can I tell you what I think it was? So I texted you when Marty missed his one because, yeah, I've never seen that either. And here's what I think it was. I genuinely believe that Greg Kampe is essentially a Michigan State basketball fan, right? Like you're in the state of Michigan. You're an Oakland head coach. You've been there for life. You know you're not going anywhere. Like at this point, Kampe is who he is. He loves Tom Izzo. Are you really telling me Kampe doesn't just watch Michigan State whenever he can? And I know he's busy. Any Division I head basketball coach is busy. But like, you telling me he's not DVRing Michigan State games and goes home and watches his team more than anybody else in the country does? Like, I would bet my life on that. I think he loves this team. I think he roots for Tom Izzo, and he's a fan. So I think that Greg Kampe has seen more Michigan State basketball than any opposing coach they're going to play this season will already. Like you talk about, you go to scout Michigan State. If you're Iowa and you're playing Michigan State in 4 weeks or whatever it is, Fran McCaffrey goes to scout, gets his assistant scouting Michigan State. They're probably spending 2 nights watching as much film from 3 games as they can. That's it. Like Kampe's probably watched every second of this team. He knows the personnel. And Kampe, well, say what you want about Greg Kampe. Kampe's a good basketball mind. Like he might do some unorthodox shit here and there, but he's been a hell of a coach for a really long time at Oakland because he's a smart basketball guy. So he knows what Mady Sissoko is capable of, right? So I guarantee you Greg Kampe's not guarding other centers that way. I guarantee you Greg Kampe's not teaching that as positive post defense, but he's teaching his team tonight that the best way to beat Michigan State when Mady Sissoko gets a post touch, which we know Michigan State gives him about 4 too many a game for what he's capable of, is step backwards. Let this man pretend you're not there and make a post move and see what he does. He was incapable of doing anything with it. And I know like it frustrates you because you were a very good post scorer in your time, albeit a smaller level in college, but you were college basketball post scorer.
And I'm not even a good post scorer. I mean, whatever you want to call it, but that's out of the picture.
Yeah,
that's one of the most disrespectful things I have ever seen in my life. Like if I'm the coach, if I'm the assistant coach or the big man coach, I'm coming to the locker room, I'm getting everybody together, and I'm being like, just so you know, that team over there, they think y'all are pussy because y'all can't go.
Right. And all right. This is unscripted, presented by the Field of 68, presented by BetRivers. We do not condone that language. But in Mady's defense, that was only one move. That was his only missed shot of the game, right? So we say like we were missing, we were fade away, we were airball. That was one shot. It was really frustrating and it was gross. And luckily, Michigan State.
And then after the miss, they backed off again. And he went to go make a move and he traveled in place.
Well, right. Which luckily after that, they stopped throwing him the ball. But again, I think you and I have done a lot of this in the last few years, Cart, and it might be why you have an aneurysm by now. But the thing you got to remember with Michigan State is a lot of these guys are who they are. It just is who it is. Like no offense to Mady Sissoko. He's made a lot of strides from the guy he was last season to this season. Mady is not ever going to be an all Big Ten center. He's just not. That's not who he is. And I think, like, maybe going down the roster, I think Jaden Akins is probably the guy you think could blossom and be something he's not right now. I can buy that. Like, that, I see that. Tyson Walker has already done that. Tyson Walker went from last year to this year. Give him credit. Tyson is who he is now. Joey Hauser, to me, he's the best version of himself ever, but he is who he is. Like, we know that, right? Like, so where Michigan State gets into trouble is when you ask guys to be what they aren't. And anytime you make a post entry to Mady Sissoko with his back to the basket, you're asking him to be something he's not. Mady should never, ever touch the ball unless it's catching a lob. He just shouldn't. And if that means you got to play him less, damn, I wish they had some better options to play him less. But you don't have to give Mady the ball. Every possession doesn't have to run through it. I don't know. It's interesting. What do you think of Kohler, though? Because Kohler theoretically should have more than Mady there, right? And he struggled tonight, too. He was 2 for 5 from the floor. Didn't really impress me much. What did you see there?
Yeah, he just seems to just not be able to get into any type of rhythm offensively. And you know what? I've been trying to kind of put my finger on what it is. To me, I think that because maybe he does have such good footwork, that maybe he just does a little bit too much. Like, maybe he just needs to kind of simplify it. Like 1-2 dribbles. Let's leave the dream shake alone just a wee bit, and let's go up strong and let's shoot a hook shot going towards the basket instead of leaving. And because everything he's doing right now is leaving everything short. So when you're leaving everything short, that typically means you're fading away from the basket or you're kind of shying away from contact. You got to go up strong and go through the contact. And also, not to stick up for Jackson in any case, but I think there's some times that he doesn't get the ball right away when he has post position. I think they are a little reluctant to throw it into him at times. And because he's kind of forced to work for it more, he kind of catches it a little farther out from the basket. He did have that kind of face-up jump shot today, which was nice that he hit one. But something that could get him going is he had a couple possessions tonight that I can remember in the second half specifically where he had really good position. He had a guy pinned under the basket to the point where it was catch, layup, or get fouled. And I thought he was looked off at times. Now, you know, it also seemed to me, and I'd like to get your opinion on it, that maybe the guards and other players are a little bit frustrated with Jackson because, you know, when they do have the opportunity to drop it off to him for layups, I know specifically one tonight, AJ Hoggard had a nice little dish off for him, and he pump faked 3 times, and no one was there, and no one jumped, and then he proceeded to go up for the layup and miss it. So, it's, I don't know. I think it works both ways. But I think it starts by being simple about it and just kind of simplifying how to score in the post. And the most simple way to do that is fight to get the best position that you can and make a quick move and lay it up strong and go strong. And either you make it or you get fouled. But coming up short ain't going to get it done.
Yeah, I don't think they trust Kohler. And without watching practice, I don't want to speak more necessarily on that, but just from what I've seen in games, they definitely don't trust Kohler. And I mean, they as in the guards, call it Hoggard, call it Walker. You could call it Akins to me. The guys who would make the entry passes just don't trust him the way they trust Mady, which surprises me. But it also doesn't, because I don't trust Jackson. Like, anytime he does get the ball, he gets bumped off his spot and tries a complicated move and usually misses. So, and then you talk about the more simple plays, like he's really small. He's not the lob threat that Mady is. Of course, they're not going to trust him throwing what should be an easy lob alley-oop to Jackson Kohler. He's not really that guy. He's going to have to catch and be patient and pump fake just to finish a play like that. So, I don't know. I think it's tough because I think Kohler is a guy who, at the younger ranks, like, you know, he's a get him the ball and get out of the way guy. And that's not how they're ever going to play with him at Michigan State. Even if he turns into the best version of himself, I don't really ever see him being like a dump, like Ethan Happ type guy, which I know a lot of people compared him to Ethan Happ, Luka Garza out of high school a little bit. And it's because, he has pretty footwork, or he had pretty footwork. He had a pretty jump shot at the high school level against smaller defenders. He's a really long way away from that right now. So I don't know. I just think, give Marty credit as much as we crapped on him. 9 points, 12 rebounds to me is what you need to see production wise from Marty against a team like this in 23 minutes. I really can't complain about that. I think a lot of the starters, you go up and down. Hauser, we're going to do our Hauser thing again, but 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 for 9 from the floor, 4 for 5 from 3. Come on. What a godsend. In 28 minutes,
did a great job defensively on Townsend.
That just is who he is. I've been calling for Jaden Akins to show up. 15 points tonight, 5 for 8 from the floor, 3 for 4 from 3. Akins was a huge part of the early second half run where they pulled away.
And you want to know what it was that I think made Jaden look so good today?
What's that?
You want to guess what I'm going to say?
The foot was good?
No, not the foot.
What?
Shot selection.
Oh, I like that.
I loved it. I loved his shot selection today. I don't think he hesitated. He kind of was, especially in that second half, I thought he did a great job of just spotting up and knocking it down. Taking that open shot, not taking the tough. He eliminated the tough twos today, and I think that's what led to his career high in points. By the way, he scored 15 tonight. Yep. And I think a lot of that attributed to shot selection, so that was good to see. Also, I think this was kind of the first game. Actually, no, it wasn't, because I think he did limp a little bit in the second half when he maybe stepped wrong. But this was the first game where he was able to, look good. Kind of had a little bounce to his step, but the shot selection for him was great tonight, and I think that's what directly led to the career high in points. I thought Tyson Walker did a great job in this game of just taking the open shot. Joey did a great job of taking and making the open shots.
Can I ask you a Tyson question?
Yes.
By the way, good to see Mr. Glassbones almost made it through a game without limping. Career high 15 points for him was nice to see. Kobe Buffkin had a career high 22 tonight, in case anyone's counting. Tyson Walker, 5 for 13. He played 36 minutes tonight. He was the only guy on the team that played more than 30, played 36. And I think I got a text from an unnamed person who I respect in the Spartan community, who early in the game when Michigan State was struggling, said essentially, man, Tyson's really been bad. Like, Tyson should have a lot more points than he does right now. And I think that was just missing open shots, which, Tyson's been due for a game like that, in my opinion. He's really been spectacular this season. But do you have any concerns at all on Tyson getting worn down at some point? Because, nobody else played 30 minutes in this game. A lot of guys got run. Tyson has to play 36 minutes, shoot 13 times from the floor. He's the most inefficient guy of the starters in this game. And we're kind of looking at his numbers like, damn, Tyson isn't as good tonight as he has been all season. Could that continue happening as they get into the grind of Big Ten play and they need 40 minutes from Tyson Walker every single game?
No, because I think he has the capability and the capacity to be a player who plays 30 minutes a game. I haven't seen anything, at least from my point of it, my vantage, my point of view, that he's tiring out kind of at the end of games. The Notre Dame game, he looked tired, but also there was an issue that he had a family member that had passed before. So that was probably weighing heavy on him. I don't know if that was a necessarily tired thing. I think it was more of a mental and kind of emotional thing for him. But I think he has the capability to do it. And also, he doesn't necessarily have to work too hard for his shots that have been coming as well. If he was a guy that was kind of getting the ball and taking a bunch of dribbles, a la a Caleb Love type usage, I think that I would worry more about him tiring out. But he kind of seems like a player that's well conditioned enough to, play the role of playing 30 minutes a game. And to be honest, even if he isn't, that sucks. He's gonna have to. If we have a tired Tyson, then that is what it is. Tired Tyson's better than a lot of the other options that we have right now. So
yeah. Okay.
And all the shots Tyson took tonight were great shots too, by the way.
Yeah, just missed.
I just think he missed them, and maybe call it PTSD from last year, but as long as he's shooting, I'm fine, to be honest.
I will I'll be curious to monitor that. I think I lean on the side of there's nothing to worry about at all. But when you shoot the ball as spectacularly efficiently as Tyson did last year without shooting it much, and then all of a sudden this year you shoot a ton and he's still been super efficient, but I mean they ask so much of him. I'm curious if that's ever going to catch up to him at some point. Hoggard. Did we get good Hoggard or bad Hoggard tonight? I couldn't tell.
He picked up 2 fouls early in the first half.
So does that mean you hang it up for the game when you pick up 2 fouls in the first? He didn't pick up another foul after those 2.
I mean, he still had 8 and 8.
I'm just curious. Is that good or bad Hogard? Because I've been told he's one of the best guards in the conference. Then I've been told he was benched. I don't know. Is 8 and 8 good or bad Hogard?
8 and 8 with 2 turnovers. I'll take that game.
So that's good Hogard.
Yeah, that's good Hogard.
Okay. Just I'm still confused on it. Still trying to figure it out. Thank you though. I'm not trolling.
Do you think it's bad Hogard?
I mean, if he's one of the best guards in the conference, 8 points, 8 assists to me it's a meh night. Like gaudy assist numbers, okay. We've seen him have 10 before. Like we've seen him score 20 before. I don't know. I'm not trying to hate. I know I have a Hogard agenda. I was just curious because I thought AJ was the least involved of the 5 starters tonight, which my hypothesis has been that that's a good thing for Michigan State. But tonight, Michigan State was not very good, and Hogard was not as involved. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the conundrum that is AJ Hogard. Was that a good or bad performance? And is that good or bad for Michigan State? I still have no idea.
I think we need to focus on the main conundrum. And I don't even know if this word works in this situation, but we need to look at the outlook of this Michigan State team moving forward in the Big. And do we want to do Big Ten or in country?
I'll let you pick, but while you pick, I would like to do my giveaway to anyone that's listened this long. Shout out! We're
doing a Christmas giveaway.
We're doing a Christmas giveaway, Cart. To anyone that has listened this long, shout out to you. We are not even going to tweet this out or anything. It's just if you listen, it's a special little Easter egg for you. So we got these Spartan Dog shirts that we got printed up for the Champions Classic that I was at in Indianapolis with the Field of 68. I wouldn't lie to you folks. These are one of the coolest Michigan State shirts I've ever seen. I own a few Michigan State shirts in my house, and these are nice. These are really nice. So we will. We have a bunch of these. We'll send 3 people, the first 3 people, to quote tweet or retweet or respond to this episode on Twitter. It's on the Field of 68's Twitter is where this will be broadcast. Quote tweet it, retweet it, or respond to it, and message us AJ Hogard's stat line. 8 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, hashtag sleepers giveaway. We'll send you a shirt. I'll slide in the DMs and I will immediately get your address and I'll send you a Spartan Dog shirt. One of the coolest shirts I've seen.
That's a hell of a giveaway. Can I participate in this giveaway?
No, you cannot. We'll send you. We'll get you one anyway. You're an influencer now. You're with rivals. You're an influencer.
Guess we're not going through the terms and conditions on this one, but I made my decision. I would like to dive into Michigan State in the grand scheme of the Big Ten.
Okay.
And where I see this team at. And we're going to start with this. Keep it simple, surface level. Michigan State finishes blank in the Big Ten, Greg.
Oh, man.
Today.
Do you have your answer? Can I get a minute? Because I don't want to just throw a number out without looking at it more. You give your answer first, and then I'll tally up while you give your answer.
7th.
Okay, that's down from where you were a couple weeks ago. Elaborate, please.
I just think that I have to look at this more realistically on a scale of how many players we have that are, I think, productive and playable. And I think I've been just a little bit too optimistic on the fact that we have to ride 4 players basically to the promised land. And that's asking a lot. And we already seen one of those players be hurt. And we already seen one of those players be benched this year. So if that's happening right now before we even get to the year 2023, I'm not optimistic that something else isn't going to happen, to be honest with you. I mean, for the love of God, AJ Hogard sprained his ankle tonight. Like I just don't know if we'll be able to sustain this, both from just leaning on 4 guys too much and probably a minutes in usage type thing, especially because all 4 of these guys that I'm kind of counting on have not been guys, like high usage guys, I think, in their time yet. This will be the first time they're in that position. I mean, I think Tyson at Northeastern was a high usage guy, but not at this level, not in the Big Ten level. So I just think I need to be a little bit more realistic. I also think the Big Ten is a little better than people thought. Also, like teams that's
I'll push
we
back
thought,
on that. I'll push back hard on that.
well, we thought the Big Ten was gonna be terrible. You think it's still terrible?
I think the Big Ten's terrible. Can
Oh,
I
you think it's terrible? Okay.
can I go off on that? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, please do.
so here's why I think the Big Ten's terrible. Preseason, who were the good teams in the Big Ten?
Purdue, Illinois, Indiana.
Purdue. I mean, we're pleasantly surprised by Purdue.
I feel like me and you were not surprised by Purdue.
Maybe not. We threw out Edie as a potential.
Okay, so let's say Illinois, Indiana, Michigan.
Illinois, Indiana, Michigan were the consensus top three. Fourth was Iowa and Purdue and Michigan State. That was it, right? But I think you could safely say a lot of people had the top four teams in this conference as Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Iowa. Let's check in on those four teams. Illinois looked really good for a month, and now they all hate each other publicly. And they're 0-2 in the conference, tied with Nebraska and Minnesota, with losses to two teams who have not beaten anybody else in the conference. They're in shambles right now. Even if Illinois turns it around, they're not winning the conference. They've dug themselves too large of a hole already. Iowa just lost today in the biggest upset in modern college basketball. That's not exaggeration. They were 31.5-point favorites. They lost by double digits at home to a team in the KenPom 330s, to a team worse than Oakland. This team's in shambles. We saw them at home against Wisconsin last week. And most of it's just that Chris Murray's not healthy, but they're horrible right now. Indiana was supposed to be a national contender, the only national contender in the Big Ten. They're 9-3, 1-1 in the conference, and they've gotten blown out in their last competitive games against anybody close to the top 25. Like, this is the same Indiana we've seen for years. They're going to be a 500 team in the conference. Maybe a little higher because the rest of the conference isn't good. And then Michigan's horrible. Michigan's horrible. I'll direct people to the Sleepers Media channel. We're going to record a Michigan segment about their loss to North Carolina right after we record this, and I'll save my full thoughts there. Michigan's not making the NCAA tournament, though. They're not close at all right now. So you're telling me the four best teams in this conference, the four teams people thought were anywhere close to being national contenders, are all total non-factors nationally? Who are we talking about at the top of this conference then? Just Purdue? I mean, right now, the top teams in this conference are Purdue, Wisconsin, or Northwestern. And then it's Michigan, Michigan State, who's both stink right now. Like, I think it's really hard to step back and see what this conference is doing. And yeah, they're going to beat up on each other, but I just think it's really hard to separate and say anyone in this conference is respectable at a national level right now, except for Purdue. And even Purdue, like, they're the number one team in the country right now. That's horrendous, Cart. That Purdue team, we saw them in person. They're good. They're not great. And right now, they look great in the Big Ten because they're the only team with a pulse in the Big Ten. So that's where I'm at. I think this conference is just as bad as we thought it might be preseason, if not worse, which honestly gives me hope Michigan State could do better in conference than I think they should. But I think your take of seventh is pretty fair for where they're at right now. It's a little higher than I would have them. But I'm right there with you in terms of my fears for them. I would probably put them eighth in the conference on the season. And that doesn't sound great, but it's right in line with where they've been the last couple of years. And if I'm listing teams I don't think they'll finish ahead of, it's Purdue, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Indiana, Rutgers, Maryland, and then I think two of Penn State, Iowa, Illinois would be right there with Michigan State. So either eighth or ninth, which is not great, but I mean, it's ahead of Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan, Northwestern, who I think are the four worst teams in the conference. Like,
it's bad. If we finish ninth, you're gonna have to, I don't know, help me.
I mean, I don't know, man. It sounds bad. We're both being negative right now, but like, I'd kill for ninth as a Michigan fan. I'd kill for ninth.
Just so you know, we are recording this, like I mentioned, after the Oakland game. Emotions are definitely high on my end. So I don't know if I mentioned that Oakland team stinks.
Well, the truth is this Big Ten spot, there's a big group in the middle, right? Like on paper, I think at this point you'd say Purdue's clearly ahead. I think you'd probably say Ohio State is ahead of Michigan State. I think you'd probably say on paper Indiana and Illinois, even with the issues Illinois has had, they're ahead. Those would be the 4 in quote-unquote tier 1 to me. And then tier 2 is Wisconsin, who we just think hasn't really played anybody. Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State, who, looking back, that Penn State win's huge for Michigan State. And Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
To me, you lump Michigan State in that group. It wouldn't shock me if they finish as high as like 4th or 5th, but it also wouldn't shock because out of all those teams we've named, look, here's the sad truth. Out of all the teams we've named, Michigan State has the least depth, the least top-end talent. And when you add those two things together, that's tough. They got the best coach. They got the coach who I can guarantee you will maximize this roster in a way that I don't think Kevin Willard will. I don't think Micah Shrewsbury will. I don't think Mike Woodson will. Go up and down the list. It doesn't matter. That's true. But the sad truth is that maximizing this roster might mean bringing them from 11th to 7th. And that applies to the last 2 years too, which is really hard to square. And luckily for Michigan State fans, that changes next year because you got guys coming in who are dudes. But it doesn't make this year any more palatable, in my opinion. It's tough.
It is tough. But with that said, Michigan State's 8-4. And I will take a step back in this case. I think we're watching this team too much without Malik Hall and not realizing the difference that Malik Hall will make.
That's fair.
If anything, what is it? Like the heart grows fonder in absence.
If you would have told us preseason,
Malik, I miss you, man. I really do.
If you would have told us preseason, Malik Hall misses what, 5 games, and the team's 8-4, we take that and run with it.
We do,
100%.
So take a sip of your cocktail and perk up, Gregory, because we are 8-4 coming into a game. We play Buffalo, I believe, on the 30th, and that'll be the last game of 2022, and then we are on to 2023. And
is that one a schedule loss? Is that one another like 11 days off schedule loss? Or is that more in the regular?
Oh, no, we're going to be giddy. We're going to be fresh off Christmas gifts. It's lit.
Oh, nice. Cup of eggnog.
A couple of eggnog, fresh off Christmas gifts. Want to have a good game in front of the ladies for the New Year's Eve moves.
How much accordion will be involved in that game?
Hopefully there's no sweaters.
Hopefully
there's no messages.
Can you sing? Would you mind singing Here Comes Santa Claus for us in the spirit of Tom Izzo making his freshman sing?
Dun, 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 dun. Here comes Santa Claus. Here comes Santa Claus. Right now, Santa Claus Lane. Mixing the Dixon. Hey, go green, go white. All right, Gregory, I want to wrap up this episode. It felt good to get that off my chest. Not get off my chest, but at the end of the day, we are 8-4, and we're missing one of our best players. And it's going to be great to see him come back. He actually should be back, I believe, by the Buffalo game, at least playing on a minutes restriction, a pitch count. So, we'll get through this year. Like you said, looking back, if you would have told me we got to this point of the year and we're 9-4 and we're 1-1 in the Big Ten, you know what? I'd take it. Why not? Beggars can't be choosers, damn it. So, any final words?
No, I encourage Michigan State fans to stay positive, even if we don't always. There's a lot to like with this team. This team's top 6 are as good as any team in the Big Ten's top 6, except Purdue. And even Purdue, I think they go toe-to-toe with Purdue. They're top 6, I really do. The problem is you need more than 6 players to win big things in basketball. If Tom Izzo can find a way to do it with 6 guys, I will tip my cap. And if there's anyone in the country who can do it, it's Tom himself. I'm not doubting you, Tom. I've seen you do it so many times before. And if there's any solace card, it's that you're going to go 2-0 against Michigan this year. So cheers to that.
No,
Spartan
you know the rules. No matter what, always split. No matter how bad, how
that
good.
Was when Michigan was actually had a pulse, though. This year, I'll save my thoughts. Like I said, I'll save my thoughts.
All right, we're going to sign off for Carter Elliott and my co-host Greg Waddell. This is another episode of The Unscripted. We'll be back I think well, actually, no. I think the next episode will be in the new year. So we will see you in 2023 if you guys make it to there. Peace out.
That was ominous. Are we going to have listeners who don't make it there?
I don't know.
Are they made of Jaden Akins bones?
If we lose the Buffalo, they might not.
They'll make it there. Go green, go white. Cheers.